Hello, welcome to my channel. This is Susan Standley Stitch in Time, and I'm so pleased that you came to join me today. On this channel, I like to talk about cross-stitch, quilting, textiles, and sewing notions from the past. And I also share with you the projects that I've been working on. And as you can see today, I'm going to talk about a really dynamic quilt that I made. It's got colors in it that might not fit your palette, but I'd love to share with you a little bit about the history behind this quilt and the reason why I chose to make it. I'm also going to review some questions and comments and share with you the projects that I decided for 2023. I'm going to show you a finish. I'm going to pick the winner for the giveaway. I have some special gifts that were gifted to me that I'd like to share with you, and I also have an announcement. The first question I received was about the elongated hexagon quilt that I'm working on. Now, I'm going to pop a picture in here because you might not remember it from last time. The viewer wanted to know what the significance was of this quilt and why I chose to work on it. And as you know, I like to reinterpret quilts from the past and cross-stitch from the past. I love to explore the antiques. And this shape, this hexagon shape, is just super common in the late 1700s and early 1800s. And many of you might recognize it from English paper piecing and Quaker samplers. It's prevalent all throughout Quaker samplers. The hexagon shape is found in nature. It's, of course, a honeycomb. It's been traditionally known as a symbol of harmony and balance. It's been an object of interest for a long time. And I chose to do this elongated hexagon because I felt like it showcased the fabrics from the time period that I was targeting, which was 1830. And the fabrics a lot of them are large scale florals and just gorgeous vibrant colors, and so that's why I chose to do this. I'm going to show you a picture of some antiques that inspired me, just so you have a little better understanding of where I'm going and why I chose to go in this direction. So I hope that answers your question. Of course, always please let me know if you have any other questions. I love exploring that with you. I am reproducing, and reinterpreting the elongated hexagon using a technique that's relatively new in the quilt world, and that is stamping the pieces onto the fabric, stamping the shapes onto the fabric, so that you have the cut line and then the sewing line, and it's with a stamp. And I can show you how that works. This set of stamps that I have is transparent, so you can actually place them over the fabric in exactly the location you want. If you want a flower right in the middle. And I would be willing to do a short demo on another video if anybody was interested. It's a really nice technique. If you use archival ink, it's safe, and it saves a lot of steps. If you've used templates before, you know. Which leads me to another question a viewer had, and this will tie in with something that I want to talk about. Somebody else wrote in and asked, and this was anonymous, they wanted to know how I reacted to the rotary cutter. When did it become available, and how I reacted to it. And the rotary cutter became available to the garment market in 1979. That was about the time I started quilting. So it wasn't too long after I started quilting, maybe a few years, that people were starting to introduce the rotary cutter in classes, and the benefits were great. You could cut strips and long pieces quickly. The accuracy was pretty good. Lots of wear and tear was saved from your hand. You weren't having to trace around shapes. The downside, well, let me just say, of course I had to try it, and of course I became hooked on it, and it's great, and it's wonderful for so many things. But, however, if you've ever used a rotary cutter and ruler, you know that getting an 1/8 of an inch cut is challenging. Getting a 1/16 of an inch cut is super challenging, and getting a 32nd of an inch cut is almost impossible. And then if you go into other funny angles and other strange measurements, it's really not doable. That's where your template piecing knowledge really comes in handy. And so I'm really actually very grateful that I know both methods, because there are times when the rotary just is not going to work for me. So did I take to it immediately? No. The rotary is, if you've never used a rotary cutter, and I'm assuming by now many people have tried it, it's been around for quite some time. But if you haven't, be careful, because the rotary blade is extremely sharp and you can injure yourself very easily. I can talk about that too at some time if anyone has any more questions. But yeah, the rotary cutter is a wonderful invention, and I don't even know if I could imagine life without it, but I also know that it's not always the thing I want to use. So thank you for that question. And then the next question was about my hoop, and they wanted to know what brand of hoop it was, and it's a Hardwick Manor hoop. And oddly enough, so this is my little hoop that I've started using this year, because I'm extending some of my techniques and trying new things in my cross-stitch journey as well. Oddly enough, my quilt hoop is also Hardwick Manor. So if you, I don't know if you can see that cute little emblem that's been engraved into but it's a little house encircled by kind of like a globe. I've loved this quilt hoop for years. The wood is smooth, there are no burrs, it hugs the fabric beautifully. I haven't even wrapped this because I'm not at all concerned that this is going to harm my quilt while I'm quilting it. It's not heavy. Quilting is different because you can, kind of hold it against your body and stitch, and you're not doing the same type of stitching as you do with cross stitch. Now this little one that I got for cross stitch I love the shape for cross stitch, because you can see that my hands have taken a lot of abuse. I've used my hands a lot. I have a lot of arthritis, especially where those joints are for hand quilting. I wanted something that would gently sit in my palm of my hand and that didn't weigh very much. Now the reason I got a hoop instead of something different like scroll bars is that I'm doing the Simple Harmonies box, and Katie Strachan has led that program, and she recommends using a hoop so that all 4 sides of your linen is stabilized. That project is very size specific and has to end up exactly the size of the wood on the box, because you're going to attach it to the wood. So I'm going with what she said, and so far so good. I actually really enjoy using this hoop. It's so gentle. There's no clinging or gripping. Even you could, I guess, put it in a stand. I haven't ventured into that yet, but even without the stand, it's just, yeah. So again, the wood is good quality. It's smooth. The hardware doesn't get in the way because it's over here and I'm stitching over here. So, and anyway, thank you for that question. And yeah, so far my journey with that has been working out pretty well. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. Okay, So I think that's it. I think we've covered all of the introduction. Let's go into the next part of our adventure here. I'd like to share with you a little bit about this quilt behind me. This quilt behind me is called the 1876 Centennial quilt. It was originally put together by EMC, and we don't know anything about who EMC is. It was discovered in Pennsylvania by a woman, and she had it in her home for many years, using it and loving it before she put it out on social media and someone discovered it, because it really is a treasure. I'm going to put the picture of the original in right here so you can take a look at it. It's in a private collection, and I saw it and I thought, this is a significant piece of history. It was originally made, of course, I believe, in honor of the Centennial. America had turned 100 in 1876, and this was discovered in Pennsylvania, and it has all the colors and vibe of Pennsylvania quilts. I just wanted to reproduce it because of the historical significance and, of course, because of the color. If you watched any of my earlier episodes, especially episode 12, you know I talked about red and green, and I love that combination. This has a lot of red and green. It has a lot of other colors as well, but the red and green just really stand out to me. It's very dynamic. It was originally made during a time of great celebration and a time when there was a lot of hope for the future in the country, and I think the quilt really shows that as well. One of the things about this quilt is the shape of many of the blocks, and the overall shape is like a compass or a wheel, and I think that really talks about moving forward. So unfortunately, don't know anything about the stitcher. Just like with the sampler, if you don't put in all that key information, it's lost to time, and people will go back and wonder and ponder. But the center of it is a mariner's compass block, and it looks like a compass. So I feel like it had a lot of, it was projecting a lot of future. It speaks to me of the future. Now, did I connect with the stitcher when I was making this? A little bit. This person was trying to use a lot of the skills that they had acquired. I used all the skills I've acquired to make it. I used applique and reverse applique and English and paper piecing, English paper piecing, machine piecing. It's hand quilted. I mean, it really just encompasses everything. Took me 3 years to complete, and that's mostly because I was doing other things. I probably could have finished it sooner, but I didn't. So what stands out to me about this quilt, and the reason I wanted to talk to you about it today, is this green. And this green in this quilt is commonly referred to as poison green. It was not always called poison green. But why is it called poison green? Well, in the Victorian era, when this quilt was put together, green was a color that was all the rage. And up until that time period, greens had changed. Remember, I told you I was on the documentation team. So you can really date antique quilts and probably samplers. I don't know. Possibly. I'm assuming maybe. By the dye lots used for the colors used in the product, because certain dyes were not available. Everything was natural. There was no synthetic dye yet that held the color fast. This green became all the rage, and was all the rage, because a chemist discovered a way to make this green hold fast. Unfortunately, this was William Scheele. Unfortunately, what he used to make the dye hold fast was arsenic. And it was not discovered how this was becoming a toxic poison to people for some time. So this was a color that was used on paint, in wallpaper, in clothing, in textiles. It was even used, if you can believe this, in food coloring. So you can just imagine this inundation of this toxic arsenic poison that people really didn't make the connection. Finally, a doctor at some point made the connection. I love this color green. I know it's pretty bold and pretty out there. It reminds me a lot of the green in Mary Snow. I'm going to put a picture of Mary Snow in here. Now, Mary Snow is a sampler I've been working on, and oddly enough, although we only have her name, I was reading through the pamphlet that Nicola put together, which of course is beautifully done, as all of hers are. And she says, even though we don't really know when this little girl stitched her sampler, she believes it was from the Victorian era based on other things in the sampler. Well, that fits with this story as well, with the color green. So anyway, this green print in this fabric, in this quilt, has been reproduced several times over the years. So it's difficult to date just based on the green, because it's been reproduced several times, and you have to really look at the fabrics around the green to give your quilt a date. I'm going to pop in a picture of an antique quilt block and the green fabric that's used in the antique quilt block, and then the green fabric that was reproduced, that's really, really close, that I used in this quilt. So you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the antique green. These are antique blocks here. And this is the reproduction. Pretty cool. So by 1875, around the same time that this quilt was constructed, there were synthetic dyes becoming available, and the toxicity was becoming less and less of an issue. And a lot of things that I read, a lot of professional publications believe that this green probably was not synthetic, did not become synthetically available as a dye until about 1815. So anyway, it's just interesting, and I love the connection and between that and this little sampler that I'm working on as well. I'm going to insert a picture of this entire quilt right here for you to see. It's a big one, so I can't get it all on the screen. So here's the entire quilt that I made. And then I want to show you the label, because as you know, I'm pretty passionate about documenting my work, and this label is probably one of the most extensive I've done. It's got a picture of the antique on it. It's a little glary here. This is kind of a shiny fabric with some information below. But what I did on this one, because it was a pretty significant work that I did, and it took, like I said, it took me 3 years. I have a story written on here and kind of a journal of my time spent making this quilt. My family knows it's in here. I've made a little pocket, and of course, before this is washed, that has to come out. But anyway, so that's the rest of my Centennial quilt. So for 2023, I am going to be a lot more intentional about my stitching. And one thing I've started is this guidebook. It's my own, it's just a little book that I covered with some fun pictures. But it's my guidebook to floss, thread, and needles and what plays well together. And so I'm kind of taking notes on different types of silk, different types of needles. I've got thread thickness, finest to thickest. Now I got this information from Katie Strachan's thread tutorial. A lot of this I got from her, but I've also gathered this information from shops and my own personal experience. I'm really trying to be a little more methodical. You know, if you watched my video a couple videos ago, number 24, I started my quilting journey in this fashion where I just really was deliberate and tried things and tried to make sense of everything. So I'm doing the same with my stitching. So I don't know, that might be something fun for you to consider. You may already have this information tucked away in your head, and anyway. All right, so my new project for this year, one of them, is going to be Mary Brutnell by Hedgerow Stitching. She's a sweet little marking sampler, and I wanted to stitch her because I am kind of focusing on this 1840s time period, a lot of the things I'm doing, and that's part of my intentionality as well. But one of the things I wanted to do with this is get a little bit closer to the original thickness of the floss that this little girl used and the size of the linen. So I think I told you last time that I was going to stitch her on Mariner's Map, and I wanted, you know, this, like I said, the silk on the scale of the original, and I wanted to have an interpretation of the antique as much as I could. So down here you can see I've done a little bit of sample stitching. I'm going to insert a little bit of a close-up here. I tried Gobelins and I tried Soie d'Alger just to see which one I liked better, and I used a number 28 needle. I really am enjoying the Gobelins. I've been using it on this Simple Harmonies box, and so I'm going to stitch this in Gobelins, and I went ahead and I ordered the Gobelins. I did a conversion from the DMC. So these are the colors that Mary Brutnell will be stitched in. And I'm really looking forward to doing this. I considered Soie d'Alger, and I also had originally thought maybe of using wool, but I'm going to go ahead and use the Gobelins on this and see what that's like. So next time I'll have some progress for you, I hope. And then another project I want to start this year that I've told you I was deliberating over is Hannah Lancaster. I've wanted to stitch her for so long. There's, like I said, so many things about this chart that I love. I love the girl in the dress. Someone pointed out last time that she's wearing earrings. I love that. I love the house. There's a lot of birds. I love these checkered birds. And again, you know, 1838 is when this was originally stitched. And again, I'm kind of working in that time frame. So one of the linens I considered was Russian tea cake, and I decided that was going to be too light. So I decided on Fuller's Teasel. And this is showing up. It's a little bit, yeah, it's pretty true. I did experiment with floss. I was playing with 103 and Soie d'Alger and going back and forth on which one I liked better. They both have about the same coverage. This is, I believe, 38 count. I'll put that in here. I'm so sorry I didn't look that up. And I actually liked the coverage for both. I really didn't have a preference, but I'm kind of exploring 103, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna stitch Hannah in 103. And so I did as best I could. I pulled the DMC so I could see the color range, and then I tried to get as close as I could with the 103. Now some of these I think I'm going to have to switch out because they're almost exactly the same color as the linen, but this is kind of where I started. And like I said, I like to build things up from the groundwork up, and so this is kind of my way of approaching the project and making it my own. So I will get some stitches in on that hopefully by the next time I see you. All right, and what have I done since I saw you? Well, I have a finish. You'll be so delighted to see that I finished Theodora, the Katie Strachan ornament for this year. She was delightful to stitch. She was a new experience for me. I have not done full coverage beadwork before on wool. This wool it's suit quality. It's high-end suit quality wool, so it was really fun to stitch on. You know, it was pleasant because I knew that I could finish her in a few days, and I can't say it was easy because it was really my first time doing anything like this, but I'm pretty pleased with how she turned out. And then I put a little cross stitch date on the back because I wanted to remember that. So she'll probably be the sparkliest thing on my tree. She's just adorable. And after I watched Katie's video where she showed her host of heavenly angels, it gave me ideas for the future. I think, you know, people come into my life and come into our family, might be nice to stitch an angel in honor of them and add them to the tree. So there she is, little Theodora. All right, so she's a finish. I also finished a doll quilt. This little doll quilt is called Spinster. It's out of Betsy Chutchin's book Hope's Journey, and it is just simple half square triangles positioned to give this spinning motion. I don't know if you noticed, but all these backgrounds are kind of scrappy. They vary. And I just thought it would be really nice to have this done for Christmas. Looks nice with greenery and a candle. Doll quilts are so nice because you can put them in a dough bowl, you can roll them up and put them in a bunch of them in a basket. You can decorate a wall. You can actually do a doll quilt wall if you want. I mean, there's just a lot of ways to play with them. So, and then the back is this pretty, beautiful toile. I think this might be a Jo Martin fabric. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I got that done. And I made a little bit of progress on Mary Snow. I want to have her finished by Christmas. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm getting closer. I'm going to keep stitching her until the end of the year, until she's done. She will just keep in my stitching plans until she's done. I am really enjoying her. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but this one is not quite right. So it's okay because they're a couple and, you know, they don't look exactly the same in nature, so I'm just leaving it that way. And then I did play a little bit more with my Dutch Beauty. I haven't made a ton more progress, but I have used the hoop on the 45 count fiber on a whim, and it really has helped open up the holes. This is Cream and Sugar by Fiber on a Whim. The flosses are a variety of silks, my own conversion with the help of Janine at the attic, and just my own playing around because that's what I do. And see, I think that is it. I'd like to share the winner of Mary Carr 1840. Last time I said that I had purchased this twice. It's a beautiful chart. The red and green, of course, just speaks to me, and it's gorgeous. So the lucky winner of this is Judy Gibbons. Judy Gibbons, you have won on the random comment picker. You have won this chart. So please contact me. I have an email, and I also can be contacted through Instagram. And if I don't hear from you, I will message, your comment, and we can exchange information. And I will get this out for you. And maybe this can be one of your New Year's starts. Who knows? It's beautiful. The next thing I want to share with you are two things, actually. I have received two beautiful, beautiful gifts, and that I really feel like I needed to share. The first one is from a viewer who was so touched. She's, I think, been watching some of my older episodes, and she discovered the episode where I talked about, it was a special edition episode, and it was the Blackbird Designs Sal, where several people in this community were doing some applique and some stitching, and I was talking about the history of applique, and I mentioned Molas. And this viewer, her name is Yadira, she told me, well, she actually sent me two Molas. They're just absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. If you could see the fine detailed work and stitching. These are traditionally, I believe, from South America. I don't know if every country makes these in South America. I'm showing you the back because each fabric is layered, and then it's reverse appliqued back. So the line is cut, and the stitching, the fabric is turned back, and it is stitched down to reveal the next layer, the next color. And then that color is cut and pushed back to reveal the subsequent color. And the workmanship is just incredible, and I am so touched. She told me that these are gifts that in her growing up years and her culture, people would exchange or bring as a thank you for having me to your home, or for special occasions. They're gifts of love, and I'm just so honored to receive these. So I thought you would enjoy seeing them. They're gorgeous. They're full of color and exquisite skill, the workmanship. The next gift I received is from a dear friend, and she's somebody that I've become just friends over Floss Tube and Instagram, and this was from Catherine Adrian, and she stitched this little lady's pocket. It's actually a little doll's pocket, and she stitched me. One of those is me, one of those is her. There's a pear, because I've spoken about pears. There's birds, because we like to talk a lot. There's a snail, I think because he carries his house on his back, but I think it's because I'm such a slow stitcher. Anyway, it's just precious. And again, her work is exquisite, and she made it as I could use as an ornament, or something that one of my favorite dolls could hold. So thank you so much, Catherine. It's precious. Big announcement. If you haven't already heard, Brenda is having a big birthday this year. Brenda of Brenda and the Cereal Starter. I'm going to show you the picture of the chart that has been custom designed or released for this event by the Scarlet House. So here is a picture of the chart. Now, the person who masterminded this event is Penny Tucker, and many of you may know her on Instagram, Penelope Tucker. She has been scheming and working so hard to pull this together and make it available to everyone globally in this community. I would highly recommend that you reach out to her, thank her, and participate. It'll just be so fun. So Brenda's having a birthday. Now is the time to be gathering supplies. The chart's not released yet. You can pre-order the chart. You can pre-order your linen and your floss through your favorite needlework shop. There are so many needlework shops getting on the bandwagon. I think if there are details that you want, you need to go to Instagram and look up Penelope_Tucker, and I will link all that information below, and find out all the details, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I haven't finished Laura's birthday. Sal and Penny told me that was perfectly fine. It's all whenever it works into your life. So I think it's just fun that we're all doing it together, and we're doing it to celebrate someone we love so much, and that's Brenda. Next time I will be so excited. I'm going to show you the start on my 2 new projects for 2023. I'm going to hopefully have some continued progress on my ongoing projects. I'm going to have some fun pictures and stories to tell and share with you about Sampler Symposium at the Attic Needlework. I'm attending that in January. And then we'll take another look at textiles and a quilt that has shaped my journey with needle and thread as we continue to walk through the adventures I've had. So until then, have a wonderful, safe, beautiful holiday, and make time for stitching. Bye-bye.